You can't escape my biology. Hello and welcome to the Adamcast. This is episode 147, first broadcast on the 4th of June 2014. And on this week's show, we talk about forgetting your debit card, paper aeroplanes, tea making skills, and lost keys, and much, much more. Welcome to the Adamcast.
Welcome to the Adamcast. Here is your host, Adam Bates.
Hello and welcome along. Welcome to the weekly podcast where we get together once a week to talk about things that have been going on in and around our lives. My name is Adam. I'm your host. I record this live in Manchester, England, in my spare bedroom, which I like to call the podcast studio, but essentially it's basically just a messy bedroom. And yeah, so we just chat about things that have been going on. So I hope you've had a fantastic week. I can't believe we're in June already. It's like 6 months till Christmas. And it looks like the summer has both come and gone at the same time. We had some miserable weather and some glorious sunshine as well, and we just sort of plodding along. So if you've never listened before, it's a free podcast. It's available every Wednesday on iTunes, Stitcher, and on the website, which is theadamcast.co.uk. If you subscribe via your whatever feed, you'll get the next edition for absolutely free, and it'll be there ready for you. And for the first time in a long time, I'm recording the show. So hello if you're watching on YouTube. I don't know why you'd want to see me do a podcast. And actually saying that, behind me I've got a board. And I was talking last week about the business cards that I ordered. I thought, I've got to branch out. I've got to start publicising the podcast a bit better. So I got business cards, which look quite stanky. But they've got like two really bad spelling mistakes on the back. You probably can't see that. So what I thought was instead I would make them into an interpret board. You know, like when they do interviews on the telly. Especially in football interviews and after sport, they get the advertising boards out the back. I've just basically blue tagged about 100 of them onto a backing board there. So that's sort of, basically what I've done with my evening recently. So just in case you were following and listening to last week's show, I've had a bit of a bad criticism week this week. I'm not great at taking criticism at the best of times. I tend to get a bit defensive. I think like quite a lot of people, but I get quite defensive, especially if it's over something trivial, and especially if what you're doing is basically for the good of other people. So like I work in an office, and like a lot of people that work in office, you'll have like a brew rota or a brew round or a cup of tea round if you're from like me from the south. I've been in the northwest too long. So you'll have like a rota for people who make cups of tea, and it's not really a rota as such, it's just the people that want to do their work the least. So I found myself making quite a lot of cups of tea recently, and you get like 6, and I've spoken about it quite a lot. It's like skills that you learn when you work in a bar, and a lot of people say, oh well, when you work in a bar you just boring, you're just working behind a bar, but you learn some particular life skills, and one of those is stacking. So when you work in a bar, you've got to stack loads and loads of glasses up and up and up, and so you get quite good at judging. So when it comes to like stacking like polystyrene cups, you can be quite impressive, and I found that I've in the past impressed people, and meetings have stopped as I've walked past with like 8 or 9 teas walking along. I think just stopping, just hoping that I will fall down because the meeting's boring, but so far I've been okay. So I've been making quite a lot of cups of tea, and then I found like there'd been like murmurings of that people weren't happy with the tea that I was making, and it came to like an intervention, and it wasn't really an intervention, it was just when I offered to make someone, normally people would jump at the chance, and they were just like nah, and then it just came out with it saying you don't make it milky enough, and it's like, it's one of those things that's like, it hit me really hard, and I was taking it really personally. And then the person at work told me how they make their tea, and it's like with 2 tea bags and like half a pint of milk, and it's like, well, no wonder I'm not getting it right. You have your tea in a way that's completely implausible to any other human. No rational other human has tea that way, basically. So that sort of carried on for a little bit. And the other thing that was put out was I was the only person that ever was buying milk. So you sort of, gift horse in mouth and all of that. And yes, I was trying to get out of doing work, but ultimately it was supposed to be a nice thing. So I come back home. And I'm not saying that it's been playing on my mind like all weekend or the majority of the week or anything like that, but I did mention it to my fiance, and you always think, like, you come home, your fiance is going to be the most supportive person in the world. She turns around and says, yeah, you do make a rubbish cup of tea. And it's one of those things, like, how did I get so far in life? I've been making cups of tea and rounds of tea for years, and apparently every single cup of tea I've ever made has been drivel. And you just think, like, how have I survived so far in life? And is this being talked about? And you start getting paranoid. You're like, some people get, like, when you drink a hot drink, you kind of get the tea sweats. I kind of get a bit panicky thinking about it. It's like, what if people have mentioned this and have spoken about this, and if I've done, made this tea, is this something that's that people have been judging me about? Is that why I've not progressed in life and become the CEO of the company? Is because of my poor tea making skills? And it makes you think, and it is horrible, and you do panic a lot about it. So I've managed to come to terms with it. I've taken the criticism on board. I'm just not making anyone cups of tea anymore. It's just me. I'm just being greedy. It's just a brew for one. That's all I need now. Had a moment on Monday morning, and Monday mornings are getting miserable, and like, talking about like the summer being over, I was being flippant, but it's quite nice when you wake up now. No matter what time you wake up, it seems to be bright outside, and it always seems to help getting ready. But I don't know whether I prefer like really miserable winter mornings when you're getting up just because you're like, well, I'm getting up and at least it's going to be a rubbish day, and so if I'm work it doesn't matter, or the opposite of where you are going to work and it's glorious sunshine. I don't know which I like or dislike more. So it's been really bright getting up, and I had like Monday morning panic, where like nothing's done. And you always think, like, every week you think, I don't know why I don't just iron all my shirts on Sunday night, and then I have to panic around at 6:30 in the morning or whatever, getting myself ready. But why don't I just make my sandwiches the night before? Everyone else does. But you never do it just because we're just lazy, aren't we? So I had this panic on Monday morning, and I was like rushing around the flat, like looking. I couldn't find my keys anywhere, so I had to wake my fiance up. So she wasn't particularly happy about being woken up, and we were like rushing around, and she was like, "Is it check your coat pocket?" I was like, "Yeah, check my pocket." We're like checking this, and looked basically everywhere for these keys, and then it turned out they were in my coat pocket the first time, and so panic was over. A few choice words were potentially said, and it just made me think of a time that I had. I think it was like maybe like a year ago, in a different flat. I couldn't find my keys in the morning, and it was like proper stressful because I was at that point running really, really late, and searching everywhere, searching the flat. It wasn't in my coat pocket, and then I was like, well, when was the last time I had it? And just sort of trying, like, when you retrace your steps, and everyone always says that really unhelpful things, like, well, it's always in the last place you look, etc. And so I was looking for it everywhere. I was like searching the flat, and then I found it. And the place that I found it was like the worst place ever you can leave a set of keys. And they had two sets of car keys on it, and like, keys to everything that we own, basically, the flat, the front door to the flat, everything. I left them in the front door of the flats that we lived in. So the keys were sitting there all night, and there's a light there so that if someone was walking past, they could have seen that, got the keys. That was the stupidest thing that I've done. So I want to know stupid places you've lost stuff this week. I want to know basically the stupidest thing you've done with an item that belonged to you, where you've left something, or you've done something stupid with an item. I want you to get involved with that on Twitter at the Adamcast or facebook.com/the Adamcast. So I found it, keys averted. It's been a week of like leaving things and like forgetting things. And the other example of this is we went shopping on Saturday. It wasn't a big shop. It was just like to a local like supermarket, like an express supermarket. And I said to my fiance, "Oh, shall I take my wallet?" She's like, "No, I've got it." We get there and we realised that she didn't put a debit card in her wallet, and the only other card that she had was like a card that she hadn't activated, and you've got to activate it over the phone. And neither of us had phones on us either. So it just turned out that we had that like mortifying thing where you had to move all of your items off the what do you call it, like conveyor belt, like in the worst generation game ever, move it across onto another one. And we were like, yeah, we'll definitely be back. And she was like, yeah, of course you are. I was like, oh, it was mortifying. So we had to go back to Nick's house to get the card to go back and pay. And it reminded me of two horrific moments. I think I've spoken about it before, is when went to Aldi. I didn't realise you can't pay on credit card. So this is like a public service announcement. Don't go to Aldi and expect to pay on credit card, because they won't let you, and they won't be particularly nice about it either. So I rang through about £30 worth of stuff, and I just didn't, and I was going to pay on credit card because it was like the end of the month, like the day before payday, and just nothing. absolutely nothing. It was awful. It was absolutely dreadful. So then I was like, oh, where's the nearest cash point? And there was no, when you're like walking along sometimes in town and you go past like 30 cash points, you just think, oh, they're everywhere. But when you actually need one, you can't find one. There's just no chance of ever finding one. And so that basically happened. And horrific. So I ended up like putting it on my debit card and it went through, fortunately. But yeah, that was mortifying. And the other time was when I forgot my PIN number in Iceland. That was pretty low. So yes, that was pretty horrific. The other amazing thing that's happened this week was, I don't know if you saw it, was the paper aeroplane at the Peru game. So England played Peru at Wembley, and obviously it was a classic game. And so for some reason in the section of the crowd, someone made a paper aeroplane. And so like they were right up in the nosebleeds, so like right at the top of the stadium, and he threw this aeroplane and it sort of swooshed down and it went like down towards the crowd and like whooshed round and basically hit one of the Peruvian players. And if you want to have a look at it, if you haven't seen it, you can search it on YouTube, or you can go onto the podcast page, which is the facebook.com/the Adamcast, and you can see the aeroplane being thrown. And it's just an amazing shot. But the thing about it is the guy's name is, hold on, I had the guy's name, because it looks, from watching it, I was like, that's amazing. And then I watched it again, and it looked like there was a second plane. And I'm not being like all conspiracy theorists, because I know that every so often they'll be like, oh, well, what about the, like when people try and work out magicians' tricks, like, what about the false thumb? Or what about the second plane? But there was a second plane. So this guy, this chap, his name is Blair Valentine. How did I forget that name? That name's amazing. So this guy, Blair Valentine, seems to get all the credit for it. But if you watch the video carefully, his kind of goes, and then it looks like there's another one that's kind of like swoops in, slightly obscured. So I want you to have a look and just let me know. And also I want you to know about the time that someone else has stolen your thunder. So you've done something amazing, and someone else has come along and basically took the credit for something amazing that you've done, whether like you scored a goal and it got given as an own goal or something like that. So, scored an amazing hat-trick, no, not hat-trick, that'd be amazing actually, if you scored a hat-trick and none of the goals got allocated to you. But if you scored an amazing goal, you've won something, you did something but didn't get the credit for it, I want to know about that. That takes us quite nicely onto Conversation Corner. So here's Conversation Corner.
Conversation Corner.
Conversation Corner is the part of the show that I like you to get involved with me. So far it's just been me rattling on for the last sort of 10 minutes or so. So I want you to get involved with me. There's been a couple of questions thrown out so far about, like I just said, about the time that someone's stolen your thunder or taken credit for something that you have done. What was the other one? I can't remember. Oh yeah, the embarrassing things you've done with objects. Not embarrassing, the stupid things you've done with objects, where you've lost a phone or you've done something just ridiculously stupid. I want to know a couple of different ways of the social media. If you want to tweet me at the Adamcast, you've got Instagram at the Adamcast and facebook.com/the Adamcast. Also, if you want to long form, you can do. That's Adam at theadamcast.co.uk, and all the information is on the website as well, which is theadamcast.co.uk. So basically, the question this week was very, very simple. It was, I can't believe it's June already. What's your plan for the summer? And Glenn Lumsden has been involved, and this is like, sometimes you wish you never asked. This is one of those moments. He got in touch, and he also put a picture of what he was doing. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that if you're watching it on the YouTube. It's really hard to, when it's like mirror image, it's really hard to judge it. He's just basically got a picture of him by the pool, which is just horrific. You just think, why did I bother asking that? So if you want to let me know what you're up to this June and this summer, if you're doing anything quirky, if you've got any like funky festivals that you think we might be interested in, I want to know that. And as I say, the other couple of questions that are out and about, I want to know them as well. So if you want to get involved, here are the different methods of getting involved.
Listen to the Adamcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Visit theadamcast.co.uk to find out more.
Lovely stuff. Right, okay, well that's probably just about it for this week. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching as well. If you're watching on the YouTube, Hello. I think you can subscribe on channels. I don't really understand YouTube. I don't understand video very well. But that's it for this week. I hope you have a fantastic week. I shall see you next Wednesday for another edition of this here podcast. In the meantime, subscribe, rate, tell a friend and all of that. And I shall see you next week. So from this time, until next time, this has been the Adamcast. Bye-bye.
Listen to the Adamcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Visit theadamcast.co.uk to find out more.